bill will now be read a second time. I call the member for Maitland.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak on the Local Government and Elections Legislation Amendment Integrity Bill of 2016. So here we are, just a few hours after the budget for this state was handed down, and the Premier is from that West Wing show we all used to watch, taking out the trash, hoping that this bill will be ignored in the washout of the budget and the federal election by the media so that he can ram it through this place with minimal scrutiny from this parliament, from this place, to put forward a half-hearted attempt at cleaning out corruption from local government. After comprehensive and constant pressure from Labor members on this side of the House, the Premier earlier this year promised to put caps on expenditure and donations at local government, and here we see a bill that fails to do it. This attempt from the architect of the failed council amalgamations process, the Minister for Local Government, does not go anywhere near far enough. You cannot put a cap on donations without also capping expenditure, and failing to exclude developers without undermines the whole point of this legislation. It's actually a disgrace that this bill has the word integrity in the title, as there has been no integrity in the way that this government has dealt with local government, from forced amalgamations, from on-again and off-again and then on-again mergers. And my electorate, for example, has been declared not fit and then fit for the future, and now we have the kicker. They can't even have integrity in the process to discuss inserting integrity into local government. The government needs to get its head around corruption. It's a little bit like pregnancy. You can't be a little bit pregnant or half pregnant, and neither can you be a little bit corrupt or half corrupt. Once you take that dodgy donation, once you're compromised, you can't come back from it. And that is something that this government has failed to understand. If developers can continue to stand as elected representatives on council, then this is clearly an issue. We know that developers have lots of cash. Good luck to them. We know that from my region in the Hunter that they are very keen to influence the political process through donations to candidates with whatever way they can, whatever it takes. In fact, it was the member for Kiama who said that a system, just a few minutes ago, a system to fix corruption is only as good as the people who enforce it. And this from a member of this government who lost so many elected members through ICAC due to the walking ATM in Newcastle, a developer who threw money around willy-nilly at this last election in large paper bags. And the member for Maroubra mentioned just a few moments ago that we need to look at the funding for ICAC. If we're going to get serious about funding and we're going to get serious about corruption and integrity in the process, we need to ensure, just as the member for Kiama said, that the people who are looking after the system are going okay. And if they're having their funds cut, then that is very much compromised. Who are the benefits of developer largesse? The Liberal representatives of the Hunter who were elected in 2007. And how many of them are here today in this place? How many still hold their seats in Parliament? None. And what does that mean? Is it just about corruption? Do we just not like developers spending money on elections? No. I don't care if they spend money on advertising or they spend money in the papers and in our local communities. What I care about is when that money starts to impact on our communities, and our community has suffered so much at the hands of these developers. Our community's been right to reject the Liberal candidates during the 2015 state elections right across my region. And just as the Hunter is a leading region in this state, so should the rest of New South Wales look to the Hunter and what is the gain for your party, for the Liberal Party, of the corruption that has been shown there. Nothing. You lost all your seats in the Hunter and you should lose them around the rest of the state. I hope that the people of our community will reject the Liberals again at the current federal election in the Hunter, and because it's important for the Liberals to understand that once trust in a community is breached, it is difficult, if not impossible, to rebuild. The Premier of New South Wales promised himself to go around the Hunter and apologise to people for the corruption that we suffered under his government in the Hunter. We've hardly seen him since, only to rip up rail lines. We never see any of the cranes around. The very slow pace on infrastructure changes, just pie-in-the-sky promises of hospitals that never get delivered, and it's a disgrace. And who do these developers support? They support men predominantly and not women. And what I want to make the point is the walking ATM didn't throw any of his largesse to the first female member for Maitland, my predecessor. In fact, of all the Hunters Liberal state members in the Hunters, she was the only one that came through ICAC without having to admit to donations from a developer. She actually did get one, but she returned it. So in this debate, as truncated as it is, I want to speak for the large majority of people in our state who are not represented in local government in their communities. That's right, Mr Acting Speaker. I'm talking about the 51% of women in our community who hold nowhere near that percentage of positions on local councils. Representation of women in political life is a key concern for my party, for the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians, of whom I'm the New South Wales Chair. We identified the need to get more women into local government because it is a significant pipeline to getting women into elected positions in Australian parliaments. We need to ensure that women who are seeking to get into parliament are on a fair playing field, and this is clearly not the case. We know that the developers are predominantly men and they don't give money to women, and that is just one aspect. But more than that, we need to look at the corruption that is caused when they are able to influence the determinations of our local councils in terms of policy and planning and land use in our communities. Communities like mine, which have got 5 new people coming to live in Maitland every day, need to have a certainty and trust in the elected members of the council. They need to know that every time a development application comes before that council, the council will determine it in the interest of the community. When the people at the table are allowed to be developers, that cannot happen because they cannot remove that interest from their decision-making. They cannot remove that conflict from what they are deciding in front of them on the table, and this is a major concern. We already have in my electorate people who are having to remove themselves because of former donations from developers on local government issues. So at least the disclosures and the donations are going to be there, but the expenditure is also an issue. How many women in our community, how many ordinary people who are not backed by developers have got the kind of money to go up against a Salim Mahaja or any of those other developer mayors that we have in this state? We will never clean out, never clean out local government while we enable people who have a particular view of this state, who want to make sure that they have a say in getting what suits their companies, what suits their investment strategies, rather than the good of the community. We need to exclude developers from local government. I would like to finish with just talking about this whole concept of corruption. Corruption is the bane of every politician in this place. This is the reason that when you go campaigning and you ask your community to support you, they look at you with suspicion and distrust, because the disgraceful behaviour of developers in our state who have donated to councils, who have influenced our community decisions in planning and development for the detriment of our community. It is all around the ability to provide infrastructure and services for our community based on need, based on fairness, equity and social justice. It shouldn't be about having someone in the jump seat who is able to influence the process to line their back pockets. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would ask that the House does give due consideration to any amendments that are brought on this. And I urge and I actually beg the members on the other side of this table to think about the communities that you represent and how are they best served. Are they best served by someone who is there for their whole community, to have the interest of the community above self? And when we have someone who has an ability to make a significant financial advantage for themselves out of a planning or council decision, we cannot guarantee that. And for that reason, I urge the Minister to accept the amendments regarding stopping developers from being on council and to limit the expenditure of candidates for local government. Thank you.